as she told you, is the third Freedom Suicide Prevention and Trauma Recovery Summit. And we call it the third freedom because we believe that there are four freedoms in the urban fine arts. And the third freedom is the freedom of mental and emotional wellness. I kind of wanted to start off with a bang, but we're trying to iron out some technical difficulties here. So, the bang will have to come second. We're going to start off with the kind of the calm with Flora Copel. Flora Copel is a social worker, and she works specifically with homeless teens. 18 to 24. Well, homeless youth, how about that? And before we bring her up, let me explain who we are and what the Life is a Gift campaign is. We are the Chicago Urban Fine Arts Commonwealth, NFP, which means that which is a nice thing, which is a fancy way of saying we're not-for-profit. And we focus on championing the bread and butter issues and meat and potato issues of the urban fine arts community. Not urban fine arts, I don't just mean hip hop. Also house, reggae, anything that comes out of the blues and black dynamic in the United States of America. And we champion those issues from the kitchen table to the nightclubs and the streets, and ultimately, as Commissioner Sims can attest to the local, state, and federal decision-making chambers. And everybody hear me, but thanks, okay, everybody hear me. So the Life is a Gift campaign came about when a talented producer and rapper named Michael Malinowski, better known as Mike Warner, succeeded on his second attempt to die of suicide. He was in his 40s and he wasn't where he wanted to be as far as his music career is concerned and as far as just his life in general. And I was just disturbed by the way people were grieving over his death. And they really weren't grieving. They couldn't get through the grieving. People are still grieving. So we took it upon ourselves to start an initiative where we could help people grieve in a healthy manner over suicide and loss of loved ones. And we kind of expanded as we went along to helping people achieve mental wellness beyond just suicide. So having said that, I'm going to bring Flora Copel up. Ms. Copel, as I told you, is a social worker, and she deals with homeless youth. And welcome, Flora. And she wrote a series of what she calls grief poems to navigate the loss of her famous son, Peter Fresh, better known as Parker the Third. Parker, for all who don't know, is kind of like a founding father of Chicago hip-hop as we know it. He founded one of the first organized graffiti crews, one of the first organized b-boy dance crews, and he, as a graduate of Columbia College, Chicago, he ended up as the longtime producer, music supervisor, for the Oprah Winfrey Show and the Harper Productions. So I'm going to come up and let Ms. Copel read a couple of her grief poems and then discuss them. And then hopefully by then we can show you our provocative suicide short by Ms. Williams here.
These are grief. I've been a poet since I was 8, but I had a child. My child was the son of a jazz musician, so we could not necessarily count on what was coming in. So I had to go to school, get my degrees, become a social worker. I'm glad I did. And that's where I've spent most of my life. My son died 15 months ago of COVID. Mark described him. He was probably the most wonderful person in the world. And the one thing it did do is I started writing again. And if I cry, it's been short. Every day when you talk about suicide, every day I think about it, but I know better. And
I just want to clarify, he didn't die of suicide?
He did not die of suicide. He died of COVID in December 12th, 2021. But every day, I have to think about why am I here? And every day I decide to stay another day. And poetry has actually helped me. So I think when you look at trauma, and when you look at suicidal thoughts and other kinds of trauma, creativity is such an important part. And I think when we talk about stopping violence, people being able to use their creativity, and Caprice will talk a little bit more about that when the systems all work. It's really important to be able to say what you need to say, however you do it, whether it's music, poetry, dance, social work, whatever it may be. So I will read one, and if I cry, excuse me. And by the way, I used to not feel like anything was real, so that's what this poem means. Nothing is real. Once again, I'm living inside a movie, maybe a futuristic film with languages I don't quite understand. Invisible to all but a prime pigeon pecking at my table and at my shopping cart, staring at me with red-rimmed eyes. And for a moment I think, I hope it may be you, coming to comfort me, to translate for me, to move me back to the realm of reality, as you did for the 54 years since you left my womb. A realm that disappeared when you did, a realm that was not mine to keep, a realm that oops, my thing is gone, and now have given. The pigeon smiled at me and soared away. I should have known it would have wings. So that's all that one. Mike, Mike is back. Hooray. Okay, I will think of one more that won't bore you to death. 1 second. I'll try this one. It's the last one I wrote. You know, it's strange and sad that I've created more poems grieving you than I have celebrating you with ongoing joy. I wrote poems celebrating your birth, the beginning of life for you, and really the beginning of life for me. So easy to sing out with smiles, caressing sweet baby powder, sprinkled soft, squishy skin. The song creates itself. From that moment, although there were moments of struggles, stress, and even tears, day-to-day joy ceased. Never ceased, rather. Joy that you and I shared. I guess I was so preoccupied living life and loving you, embracing you and you, that I didn't make time to proclaim this joy in poems. I lived my song instead of singing it. And your love, your being, accompanied every verse.
That's it.
Now my joy has been deleted, at least in pause, and you're gone from day-to-day life, and I can only love you from afar. I no longer can live my day-to-day life with only an empty heart and soul. So I fill my days and my heart with grief and with memories of our daily life. I now have nothing but time to share, to sadly sing my sorrow. Thank you. Appreciate it. To sadly sing my sorrow, my gargantuan grief, and memory of our overwhelming joy. That's it for that. We'll take a few technical difficulties.
The reason that Ms. Polk was a trooper is she was also a jazz singer.
I was a jazz singer. I don't know if Akbar is coming, but my son and Akbar used to call me Jazz Flo. And I actually, with my son, made some albums with Grandmaster Caz. I did a background for Grandmaster Caz and Busy Bee. You're all too young to know about that, but some of you may know about Grandmaster Caz and Busy Bee and the Cold Crush Brothers. And at one of the events that I went to, they decided I was the matriarch of hip-hop. So I am the matriarch of hip-hop in Chicago, according to some of the DJs. And
Peely's father was a very famous jazz drummer.
From Chicago. His name was Leroy Williams. He played with Barry Harris for many, many years. He actually played with Judy Roberts, who was still here not long ago when he first started. That's how we named Parker. His name was after Charlie Parker and his father. His father was Leroy Williams. So he was Parker Lee, or as he said, DJ PB Fresh, for his whole life.
And Parker started off as a baby playing the Skins. I was just mentioning Parker started off as a baby playing The Sims. You got pictures.
Oh, I have pictures and poetry. When Parker started, he played his father. He came out dancing. He actually literally danced to me his first steps. And his godfather was a very famous jazz bassist, if you're very old, which I am. And it was named Wilbur Ware. And Wilbur played with all kinds of famous jazz musicians. And Parker took his first steps dancing toward Wilbur Ware and danced the rest of his life and DJed the rest of his life. So I have poems about that, but they're sitting in my purse.
So, Ms. Copeland, have you been able to teach jazz poetry to other people? Greek poetry, rather, to other people?
Not really, not as much as I want. I do value creativity for everybody. I think everyone has something creative to say. They do it in their own way. Caprice will talk more about that in a minute, too. But I haven't really taught Greek poetry. I've shared it with my friends and with various and sundry people. I have done, when I first started at the agency I work at now, we did the play for colored girls. And we used only our homeless youth. The men did the sets because that's most all women in the play anyhow. And our youth that were 18 to 24 were the actors. And one young lady who hadn't finished high school, hadn't done anything, but she was in the play, and she had her baby, and begged me, we had like 5 nights, and she begged me, could she come back right after she had the baby, which of course she couldn't because of the medical. But I think it's really, really important to use creativity. And I see that some of you are talking violence prevention. I think that's one way to really do it. Parker was saved from being in gangs by hip-hop. He came here from New York at 15, and immediately a gang member threatened him and said what color he was wearing. He had no idea what they were talking about. And he came back in and said, we're going back to New York, Mom, because at that moment there weren't that many gangs. And this is a long time ago in the early 80s. But hip-hop saved him. Hip-hop, it saved him and a lot of his friends from being involved in violence. A little bit illegal things occasionally, like writing their names in various places that weren't legal to do it, but of violence they weren't part of. And I think that that's been so important, and I think that it is really important. But I haven't per se taught Greek poems. I think it's a great idea, and I do believe in using creativity to help people be who they are.
Encourage you if you can get the funding for it or the venue for it to really teach that. Because it seems that it's really helped you.
It did help me.
I know it's hard when you lose a child because most people think of going before their children.
There is, if you have, and I don't ever want anyone to do it, but
Child, is that correct?
He was my only child, and if you haven't experienced losing a child, you don't know what grief really is. No matter who else you've lost, but I hear that from a lot of parents that have lost their children, sometimes to suicide, sometimes to other things. But yeah, I will try to do that.
Well, before we proceed with the other program, I hope this doesn't make you cry, but I've been promising you this for a while. This is the Pee Wee Fresh Medal that you have the honor of awarding people. By the Cook County Forest Preserves to organize a block party for Chicago Hip Hop Heritage Month, which is in July. And part of that, the central event for that will be the first Cook County Hip Hop Olympics with 3. We can't do all 5 because they don't give us enough time. But the top winners in hip hop dance, hip hop visual arts, and singing will receive that medal. Two people if it's a tie.
Thank you. This is beautiful. See how beautiful my son was. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and I should mention that the picture, that particular picture, was taken by a very good friend of his, who's now a big-time filmmaker in Hollywood, named Rob Benavides. And Rob took that around the time that he made the first music video for the legendary group that Pee Wee was in called Mental Giants.
I'm a former Cook County Commissioner, Deborah Sims, but in my life before that, I worked in the city of Chicago as an intervention worker.
You're going to social work, I always associate.
And I brought with me today Bob Jackson of Rosa Ceasefire. And if you guys know, there is no more ceasefire. But one ceasefire survived it, and that was Rosa Ceasefire. And I think that was because of all of the hard work that Bob Jackson and all of his workers do. And as you can see, stand up, gentlemen, and what they have made. And these are people that go into the community and try to make sure that the kids have safe passage back and forth to school. But to tell you how all of this really started, this started back under Harold Washington. Harold Washington created, Harold Washington created this program called Chicago Intervention Network. I was not a part of Chicago Intervention Network when it first started. When it first started, it was when the gangs were really becoming prevalent in the city of Chicago. This is when the gangs were selling drugs on the corner, and every section had, each gang had a section of Chicago that they ran drugs. And this is, our job was, when I came to Chicago Intervention Network, was that we went into schools, we were on the street. We had some of the same, we had a blue car, like the police did. When people saw us coming, they all thought we were the police. And our job was to stop gangs and killing people and to try to get kids out of gangs if we could. Everybody, my family thought it must be crazy. We out there riding in the car, jumping out, doors open. We thought we were police. And we did a lot of good work. We stopped a lot of kids from being killed. We stopped a lot of drug deals from going down. And that was because we had the ears of the gang members. We're not talking about the little street people. We had the ears of the top ones. We had the people that were in leadership that we could call and that we could tell them, this kid needs to be in school. He needs to be somebody. They listened to us. And reason being because some of the people that were in Chicago Intervention Network were former gang members. And I think that was one of the best programs that the city had, and what people didn't understand. These were former gang members, so they knew what was really going on in the street. I was not a former gang member, but my partner was. My partner had gone to jail for attempted murder. And when he got out, he got a job working for the city of Chicago, Chicago Intervention Network. And our job was at Southeast side of Chicago. We went from commercial all the way, 99th commercial all the way over to Kingston. That was our territory. So any gang violence and stuff that was going on in any of those communities, that was us. All of the high schools, we were in and out of the high schools, we were in and out of the grammar schools. And I think one of the most dangerous, I think part of the job is when we had to go to funerals. It was the most dangerous and the most sad part about being in part of the religion network is that when you go to a funeral, you go to a funeral to grieve and to say goodbye to people's loved ones. We had to go there and protect the bodies that were in the casket. The person is dead. We had to stand there and make sure that when we knew other gang members were coming, and a lot of times the gangs would call us and say, it's going down. So, you guys are going to be here. We just want you to know we're coming. And we would tell them, okay, when you come, we're going to be here. And so, we were able to stop them from doing a lot of the craziness that went on. Gatlin's was one of the first funeral homes in the city, I would say probably in the country, where they had drive-by funerals. Now, whoever thought you had drive-by funerals, where people were afraid to come into a funeral to view a body. So they had to drive by. They had a little bitty box in front. People got in line, and they drove fast and said their goodbyes to a picture of the person in the casket inside the funeral home. So it was our job to make sure that they didn't go in and take the bodies out of the casket. I've seen some real graphic stuff where people come in and they bring alcohol, jewelry, guns, and they're going to put it in the casket. You stand there saying, just, it was a crazy time for Chicago. I learned a lot. I got to meet a lot of people. Got to say some kids a lot. And I wanted Bob to come because Bob used to work for them. And Bob was my first chief of staff when I went to the county. And Bob and I would talk about this stuff all the time and talk about how we were saving kids. And Bob has, I was talking to him the other day, and I told him, he has a story to tell. And I don't know, a lot of people don't know Bob's story, but Bob is a person that can tell his story and can tell it well. So I'm happy Mark, let Mark tell his story. Mark said we can let Bob tell his story. So I want Bob to tell his own story.
Hi, good evening. I'm Bob Jackson, Executive Director of Moses C. Fire. As Commissioner said, this is a story. Let me tell you a little bit about, before I get into me, about Moses C. Fire and how it came to fruition. There was while I was part of Mr. Staff, right after staff, there was a meeting convened at 34th Ward regarding gang violence in the ward with Commissioner Sims, Alderman Austin, Alderman Bill, Representative Rita Davis, and Senator Jones. In that meeting, there was the chiefs of staff, and they wanted to get one of their people to run this pilot program in the area, which at that time, I didn't know that I was on staff with Rita. And they said, oh, it's just going to be a short period and then you'll be back on staff. Well, 18 years later, I'm still here with Moses C. Fire. It has now become a passion of mine. I did not know prior to that the Lord was preparing me for leadership for this job. A lot of people don't know I'm a fellow. And that all came about through politics. I was an elected official, I was commissioner in Dixmoor, and fate had it, I had to go to prison. Throughout that process, things kind of evolved. You can't tell me about drugs, without using drugs. You can't tell me about coming out of prison, because I came out of prison. You can't tell me about being down and out and how you have to pull yourself back up. Now, mind you, I'm a college-educated person, officer in the military, U.S. Army. Okay, right. And I was at the Million Man March, the first Million Man March, on stage with Louis Farrakhan. Then, when the National Convention came here, I had the pleasure to be in that hall when President Clinton was here, and met a lot of people from around the U.S. who came to Chicago for the National Convention. This team that you see right here, Moses C. Fire, has boots on the ground. They work the late night hours, and they're in the community. We have to meet the community where the community is at. They're not coming to us, we have to take it to them. And that's what these young men do every day, 5 days a week, Tuesday through Saturday. Today they were out in the field, Commissioner Carter said this great event was going on. We decided to come out the field and join them.
Yeah.
We talk about suicide. A lot of the parents, when they lose their kids, they think about committing suicide, especially if they've been on a child or they had multiple kids who killed around the street violence. And these, our counselors have to talk them through that, to talk them out of suicide. Because after the funeral is over with, months later, a year later, who you going to call? You're going to call on the Lord, but sometimes you want people that you can touch their flesh and say, hey, look, I'm going through it. And that call may come 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, and the tears are flowing, and they're sitting there with something that they take in life, or a box of pills, or something that they take in life. And that's when they call us other people in the community that specialize in suicide prevention. That is not an easy job. It's not an easy job at all. It's not an easy job. Thank you. Regarding responding to those type of calls late at night. And the individuals that do that oftentimes are not noted, they're not on the TV screens, they're not known in the community unless they're part of our staff, because they're in the community. But it's a thankless job, but they're doing heroes work every day when they save a life. They save a life. So, in saying that, I have some young men right here. These guys in their early 20s. They're learning the business because anti-violence work is not a profession. And people don't understand that. A lot of our taxpayer dollars are invested in stopping and saving our communities. And these are our unsung heroes that's out there every day. We have my two case managers, outreach supervisors, Ms. Ronnie Cager, Mr. Davis in the back. They're leading these young men, and they're learning about what we do. Some of these young men were this far from going to prison. Why? They had a gun case. How do we get these young brothers out of these gun cases? How do we save them and other people who are thinking about suicide? This is what we do, and I'd like to thank you, sir, Commissioner, for having me aboard, and I'll pass the mic on.
My jeans and stuff the same.
That's okay.
But she's, I'm not gonna give you all her licenses and degrees and everything, it's probably all we else have, but for all practical purposes, she's a licensed therapist, trauma recovery coach, and she's also yogi, and we're doing some yoga stuff with her and Siri Patty soon, a little later, but she's gonna tell me about how she deals with the people that are thinking about suicide and moving around suicide, and families of people who are thinking about that, or who are survivors of people who are taking their lives and expressing suicide.
Thank you. So I am Tiffany Green Michael. I'm a licensed clinical therapist, as well as a yoga instructor and a trauma-informed yoga instructor.
Can we have your microphone turned up too?
Just hold it close to you.
Oh, okay. Is this better?
Yes.
Okay. So I have been doing social service work and therapeutic work for now about 20 years now in Chicago and in Northwest Indiana. I'm actually from Chicago, grew up on the South Side, Inglewood. And so before I, started doing trauma work or therapy work, it goes back to community. And so I remember growing up, in the 80s, seeing a lot of behaviors, seeing a lot of activities in the middle, of course, of the crack epidemic. And at that time, we didn't know a lot about what was going on. We see particular, behaviors or people, out in the street or, sprung out, people dying, people being, murdered, people close to us. And, it was a part of life. And we didn't talk a lot about it. We didn't have a lot of emotional intelligence about what was happening and how you should respond to that. And sort of what I do today is because of the community that I grew up in, and it inspired that. And so what I do in my therapy practice is I incorporate a lot of therapeutic interventions and talk a lot about education because we don't talk about it. Community and these conversations are really powerful, and it's oftentimes a taboo. You don't talk about suicide, you don't talk about mental health, you don't talk about trauma, we don't talk about what goes on in our households. And so we have a lot of generational trauma and a lot of taboo that we don't talk about and we don't know how to deal with. And that's really important because when you talk about suicide, you can't talk about suicide without talking about trauma, without talking about different types of trauma. developmental trauma that happens when children are born and not being taken care of, shock trauma, a shocking death or, a traumatic car accident that really affects your life. Any sort of event that impacts your day-to-day functioning is traumatic, and it affects how you think. It affects your relationships with other people. It affects how you behave, and we don't talk about that. So we always say, what's wrong with you? But we never really ask, what happened to you? And it's really, really, really important. And so that's what I do in my therapy practice. I have these conversations about what happened. It's difficult oftentimes to look beyond behaviors. We see drug use, we see neglect, we see, a lot of sort of at-risk behaviors. And it's easy to kind of, judge people, but we never ask what happened. And so in my therapeutic practice, that's kind of like what I like to do. I like to listen, and then also teach about psychoeducation and normalize trauma, because it happens every day. Studies show that 70 to 80% of us, I'm sure almost everybody in this room have experienced a traumatic experience that affects how they function right now. And so I talk about therapeutic interventions like cognitive behavioral therapy, and how to really pay attention to our thought processes and how our thoughts affect our minds, and how that affects our behaviors and how we interact with people. I love yoga because yoga helps me through a traumatic and overwhelming experience of physical fitness and yoga and those and therapy, what we call bottom-up approaches, when you sort of use your body to change behaviors in your mind. Those can be really, really therapeutic in helping to reduce traumatic responses that we have. That can look like hypervigilance, and can look like anxiety, and can look like depression. And so when you're able to write or dance or do movement or do yoga and do breath work, that really hones into different parts of our body, different parts of our brain, really the bottom portion of our brain that affects fear and affects how we regulate emotion. When we do yoga, when we do breath work, when we do movement, it gives us a sense of safety and autonomy in our body. It helps us to regulate. It helps us to feel less anxious and less hypervigilant. So those things are really, really important. And that's one of my favorite things to incorporate into my therapeutic interventions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Armstrong. And thank you all for having me here. I don't know if I'm going to be able to color inside the lines. Because, I do a lot in terms of hospice and rehab and nursing and stuff like that. But I don't see that necessarily as being, a solution to our problems. So here we are at the Suicide Prevention Network function. And I wrote a few notes so I don't stray too far. But in my opinion, it should be genocide prevention. Because most of the time, some of the things we're dealing with are not necessarily voluntary suicide. I think it's a slow suicide. You got a question?
From the standpoint of children of like the elderly, for example.
Children of the elderly?
Who have to deal with their care, and especially like parents who have dementia, for example.
Parents who have dementia.
They get burnt out from overseeing their care.
Okay, so that's Mark putting me back in my lane because I was about to invoke something else altogether. But if we were going to talk about the standpoint of children who are dealing with parents who have dementia, it's interesting. In my hospice practice, or in my practice as a hospice nurse, I'm not going to say I own the company or anything like that, I'm just a worker. But I've seen so many things that would blow your mind. When a parent is losing it and a child has to cope, it can be as traumatic as some of the other situations because you're used to seeing a person, used to being able to get answers from them. And suddenly they're not there. Suddenly they're calling you out of your name, telling you they wish you were never born. Some of the worst things that come from within the human mind can be expressed from an authority figure to a child when they're going through that process. And, you know, it takes therapy sometimes afterwards to heal from that. And I think that, you know, we heard some good points as far as the yoga is concerned. That is excellent. We all need to have a kind of standpoint where we need to come from the standpoint where we take care of ourselves first. And if I were to do something or recommend anything, because I can't leave you without touching on these points. I think we need to make good choices as far as our food is concerned. We need to make sure we stay hydrated. We need to make sure we walk 2 miles a day. It's difficult to take care of other people if you're not taking care of yourself. And society has geared us to a set of circumstances where all we can do is take care of our job. We are living to work.
We're born as a slave.
And it's still going on.
It is.
Yeah, we're not working to live. So as a result, it has a chain reaction. So your parents have to stay at work pretty much 24/7. They don't have time to watch the kids. The kids are being influenced by outside influences. And the people in control of society, they know that. Now, if you were to be a very studious person and take your time out to write a grant, you might get $50,000, you might get $5,000, $10,000, $20,000 for writing that grant. Now, you could get millions of dollars for writing a song about killing your neighbor. Why is that? To me, the societal impact of that is that they have provided a financial incentive for people to behave the way they behave. And it's because it funds the school to prison pipeline. Billy's mom is looking at my notes like, where's this guy going? I promise I wouldn't do it, but I have to touch on it. You know, there is a financial incentive for people to want to shoot each other in the black community. We are known for having guns in the black community, but there are no gun manufacturers in the community. So that's something coming from outside. Society is bringing it there. We're known for having drugs in the black community, but coca plants and poppies don't grow in the black community. So this stuff is grown and processed and delivered to us, and we are the beneficiaries of those policies. And it manifests in the way that it does. And then all we hear is radical accountability from the people who want to say, look at what you're doing. Change your ways, do better, be better. How can you be better when everything is set up for you to fall into a trap?
You're already the best.
I love this guy, my brother. Absolutely, we are the best. Everything comes from us.
So are you pretty much saying that like sex sales, abuse sales as well?
You know what? The fact that Mark's question is, does sex sell, does abuse sells? If you see again that your neighbor has gotten $1 million deal to behave in a certain way, then where is all your attention going to go? There are ways out of the economic struggles, sanctions, essentially, that they put us through. It's like having a bunch of fish in a fish tank, and you're going to take the water and decrease it by half. How do you believe the fish are going to behave? They're going to be flopping all over each other. It's going to be the end of stability because they're fighting for resources. Even at the source of the microscopic level, they did a study on E. coli. E. coli, all right, microscopic organisms. Initially, at the beginning of their life, the E. coli competed for resources. But over time, even these simple cell organisms realized that collaboration was the way. E. coli collaborated. Go
What are
ahead.
your thoughts about these new encounter groups that help people who have parents in
Can you speak up a
long-term care and
little?
hospice?
I'll repeat it, I can hear it. What he's saying is, what are my thoughts on the encounter groups to help parents? I love what I see here. This gives me hope for the future. If we were to have police in the,
Yeah, because the thing is, a lot of people in the urban fine arts, whether it be hip hop, house, or whatever, aren't getting any younger now.
You're not
only
getting-
hip hop, which is
I'm only 18.
well, I'm older than hip hop, which is supposed to be 50 years old, although that's arguable. But in any case, you know, the baby boomers are now in their 70s and 60s. You know,
Baby boomers now in their
Gen
70s,
X is in their
60s.
40s and 50s.
Right? Gen X is in their 40s and 50s.
80s.
And 80s, big up my brother. Now, this is the other thing, all right? It's all about division. Anytime music, anytime any message has a message of unity, that's going to be power to the people. If it's a message of division, it's going to be power to the leaders. So however it is they're trying to divide you, there are leaders behind that. And they don't need the entire population, they only need a segment. So they're trying to divide us so that they have the individual power. And one of the biggest things that they've done is trick kids into thinking that you don't need to listen to the prior generation. They weren't there for you, we were there for you. So it's all a societal trap. And it's centered around guns, drugs, and sex trafficking, but honestly, it's economics that has changed it. Now, I'll go back to the original point. I'm working as a hospice nurse. A lot of you are not going to see my face because, as we have discussed, we're looking at funerals that are occurring prematurely. The community has been tricked into wiping itself out. I'm taking care of people who are at the end of long lives. I took care of a 107-year-old lady. Everything that is being done in society, everything that you are being told is cool, everything that you are being told to feed into, everything that you think can get you paid, does you harm, so that you don't necessarily reach that point where you would need a hospice nurse. But then there's the grief counseling side of it. If we were to look at one another, and like I was saying before, with the E. coli, if we were to look at one another in a collaborative spirit and understand that we're going to help each other and greet one another, treat one another with respect, that might take some of the edge off of what's happening here. And I'll close with this. There was a rapper in Chicago who got a deal. And I was very close with the manager. And I used to tell the manager, listen, why don't you take $50,000 and set up a scholarship fund? They wouldn't have that. They wanted to live out in the suburbs in expensive houses. I'm not going to name names. Another rapper who was trying to compete with them ended up getting killed. And the one who was signed decided to make fun of him, as opposed to expressing condolences. Now, how difficult would it have been to act like a human being and show some civility to the person who was lost, and take your opportunity and try to bring the city together? You're not personally responsible for this person, that person, but we as a network of people who are stigmatized collectively are financially responsible for everyone. It's my job to put money in your pocket. If I can't do that, it's my job to give you ideas to help you build yourself up.
So basically, prior planning prevents poor performance.
Mark, why don't you take this microphone and say that? I don't know, that was a mouthful.
We can't hear your question.
Let me grab this mic. I'm suffering from technology here. I was saying something that, using a maxim that a dearly departed friend of mine who died prematurely told me, and she would always say, prior planning prevents poor performance. She would say poop. So basically with these encounter groups that I've been studying, the main thing has been planning. They say that when before your parents get ill to the point that you have to worry about spending up all your money, after you spend up all their money to take care of you, and wear yourself out and compete with who's gonna die first, because their failing health is bringing down your failing health, is to have a talk while they're still, able and kicking about what to do when they get older and can't do for themselves and can't be independent.
We should have a lot of talks. We should have talks doing away with competition, doing away with trying to outshine one another. We should have talks about reaching across and seeing how we can build bridges instead of fences.
We should love one another and not judge one another. All right, well, having said that, we're going to, I understand now, we're able to now show the thing that we wanted to show earlier. So I'm going to ask Caprice Williams to come up. Caprice Williams is a brief. Dominic's got to go to his midterm, so we don't want to flunk out like I am right now in our wellness council settings.
Thank you all for putting up with me.
Okay, thanks. Caprice is,
Young man.
okay, Caprice Williams is one of, I would say, Ms. Copo's discoveries. She was one of her students, but she got in the film. We're going to show a provocative short that could also go as a PSA. About suicide. You ready? Well, just tell about the film and related to
Okay, well, this film is titled Lonely Child. This film is called Lonely Child. It's created by a couple of young people that participated in my workshop called Right Your Wrongs Workshop that I put together with the help of Flora Copper and Youth Parenting and Counseling. I put up the workshop once a year at the shelter, and young people participate and we put this film together. So my web series journey is actually done. Season 2 is out on YouTube. If you guys want to check it out, Browse TV is the YouTube channel. So the web series journey that he's speaking about, season 2, totally different from season 1. I kind of want to incorporate a little bit more things that was going on in the community. So I added these therapy sessions that in season 1, the lead character sister got shot and killed. So I wanted to bring it in with season 2, showing how to heal from that. Because I see a lot of, on the level that I'm on, independent level, you see a lot of people that promote the violence and stuff, but I kind of, when I do my work, I like to try my best to incorporate ways of making whatever happened better. So we did the therapy sessions, and I had a lot of actors come out. They did a phenomenal job, and they put together sessions. It was just a group of parents. And they actually got this at like Price office. It's like you lose somebody, they offer these therapy sessions where you can go and some group of people lost their kids and stuff, and they just sit and talk. And that's exactly what I did in Germany. That's not what we're about to see now, though, but that's what he was speaking about.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Okay, we're ready to show it now.
I hate riding this bus. Majority of our memories took place here. And the result, I'm left with gaping wounds. I know these wounds will never close unless I'm in the presence of my brother. The thought of him not being here is just too strong for me. It really is. It's unbearable. I can't take it all. We did everything together. Everything. We always found our way in this store, living free and running it up, and now it just feels empty. It's an unwelcoming feeling, and I refuse to accept it. The yearning have some type of contact, just the littlest bit, it's too strong. I'm losing my grip here. He was the one I fell back on. He was my reassurance, my sanctuary. I can go to him about anything, and the fact that he's not here with me is I can't do this. He left me in the drought. He left me. Out of all the people, he left me, and I'm gaping for him to come back. Just come back to me. How can I experience life like the one I lived for? My brother was my everything. He was all I had. The only person, the only warm feeling in this cold world, and he left me. And I just feel alone. I found out through social media, they had his face plastered everywhere. And for the first time in my life, I was left breathless. My body is stuck in a complete shock. My lungs and heart ripped out of my chest, and I haven't been the same. I can't be the same without him. How can I? And I hate the world for that. I know it's selfish, but I can't help it. Why me? Out of all the people, he left me. And life isn't possible without breathing. I need my lungs and heart, and I need my brother. So I'll see you soon, real soon. None of this matter without you. If you're not here, then why should I be here? Maybe then I can breathe again. So I'll see you soon.
No, it was a piece that was created by young people. So with the workshop, it was 8 weeks long. We had to write the script, get actors together, set up good locations. It was just, just something for them to express themselves. But I just did this because Laura was like, Mark wanna, so that's why I just showed it right now. The actor and the writer, they couldn't make it because they had difficulties with contracts. But no, I don't plan on doing anything with it per se because it's for them. So they made it for them.
I would strongly recommend that they do see something like that, because I could see that being used for like 1-800 suicide hotline.
Yeah. Well, it's a conversation. Yeah.
But that would be something I think very sustainable.
Yeah.
Her work with some of the young people in our homeless programs who have suffered from trauma. I'm sure have thought about suicide from time to time and occasionally have done it. This was part of that suicide prevention. That doesn't mean that she can't do a collaboration, that some young people that work together. I mean, that's something to be thought about and discussed. But what was important is it was suicide prevention in itself.
Thank you so much for having me, Mark. And for all of
We're having you too.
pastries and cakes and breads you've brought to me over the years. I appreciate your friendship, and I'm happy to be here, happy to be with y'all. My name is Shriyadi Singh. I also go by the name of DJ Redlocks. I'm a DJ and a producer and rapper and singer. I've played around the city since I was 13 years old, and internationally in Jamaica and Asia as well. But what I want to talk to you about right now is yoga. When I was 16 years old, I got my hands on a 357 with some hollow point tips, and I put it to my head because my mother had died when I was 8 years old, and my father traveled about 6 months out of the year, and I was dying from loneliness and isolation. And I realized that I couldn't really go through with it, even though I wanted to, but I didn't have the heart to leave my father completely alone in life. So, as I pulled the 357 away from my temple, it had a hair trigger, and it went off in front of my face. And the gunpowder burned my face, and the bullet went into my bed. I prayed to God, and I thanked God for sparing my life, and I knew that God must have a purpose for me to keep me alive, because it was only about a centimeter or so in front of my face that the bullet left the barrel of the gun. 8 years later, I found myself working for a yoga master, which I never wanted to learn yoga. I had no interest in yoga, but I was working for this man who saved my life again. And one of the things that he taught me is that no matter what's going on, no matter what day it is, no matter how old we are always in the cycle of life. Because life in nature is a cycle. And what I want to teach to you is something that he taught to me. It's a short meditation that will bring you back in touch with yourself, which is in the cycle of life. And this meditation that I'm going to teach you has been proven to repair DNA and to rebuild the mind of people that have dementia by restoring the gray matter in the frontal lobe of the brain. It only takes about 20 to 40 minutes a day, and practicing it for about 6 weeks to start to repair your DNA. Now, a lot of us here have experienced trauma and stress and tragedy in our lives. And it's this that affects the way that our DNA expresses itself. When our DNA is constructed, we don't feel balanced. The elements in our body, the fire, the air, the water in our body, it's not in a balanced state, and it brings about disturbing emotions. We do all kinds of things to cover up those disturbing emotions. I hear a lot of people talking about the violence in Chicago, and I don't ever really hear anybody talking about getting to the root of the problem of the violence in Chicago. I know it has to do with the system, but beyond that, it's an emotional problem that's brought about by the system. But the system is never going to fix that for us. So we have to learn how to balance our emotions ourselves. You know, we have to learn how to balance the elements inside of our body ourselves. No matter what the challenge is, it doesn't matter who did it to us, it's our responsibility to heal ourselves. I'm no stranger to violence myself. I've lost a lot of my friends to gun violence and to suicide. I've been shot at several times by gang members, and I've also been abused by the police. I grew up here in Chicago, so I know what it's like to live in Chicago, on the west side, the south side, and the north side. So I want to teach you the short mantra. There's 3 syllables. If you can just repeat them with me. The first syllable is Sa, S-A. Sa. S-A, that's right. Now the practice of yoga is using the mind, the body, and the breath all together, these 3 faculties of the human being, and putting them in harmony with each other. So we're going to say Sa, but in our mind, we're going to see Sa. And what Sa is it's the cosmos. So when we say the word Sa, in our mind, we're going to see the vast cosmos, infinity, however you want to see that. You know, all of the planets, the stars, space. That's Sa. Then we're going to say Ta. Ta. T-A. Ta. Ta means life. When we say Ta, we're going to want to see like a nice scene in the summertime, you know, people out at the beach, people at the pool, riding their bikes on the lakefront, playing basketball, having picnics, doing whatever. That's Ta. So first we see the cosmos, and then we see summer. The next syllable is Na. Na. Na is death. When we say Na, we want to see like a barren winter landscape, maybe like the top of Mount Everest covered with snow and ice and nothing growing up there. Or maybe the leaves falling in fall. And we remind ourselves that life is a cycle and death is part of that cycle. So we have Sa, Ta, and Na. Cosmos, summer, winter. And the last syllable, like mother, is Ma. Ma. And Ma, we see springtime. The seed coming out of the ground. The birds and the bees coming alive again. And all of the images you see in the springtime. This is going to be a little challenging for you because you're going to have to keep repeating these visions in your mind. Sa, Ta, Na, Ma. So you will see the cosmos, the summer, the winter, and the spring. And you will apply that to your own life and understand that you are moving through these same cycles in your life. So that's the mind part of the yoga, is seeing the vision. And then for the body part of the yoga, we're going to do these mudras where we just touch our fingers to our thumb, creating these 4 different mudras. Sa, Ta, Na, Ma. And that's what we'll do with our fingers. This is how this meditation repairs dementia, because it forces the user to use the frontal lobe of their brain and to also use their coordination with their hand and to also sing. So we'll begin together and you just follow me. We're going to just do it for a very short time. And I'm going to invite you to close your eyes and then roll your eyes up and focus at the point which is between your brow. When we focus the eyes between the brow, the optic nerve is going to cross and pressurize the pineal and pituitary gland, which is your third eye. If you roll your eyes up and you cross them and you look at this point between your brow, it's going to help you lock your mind and focus your mind. I know that this is a new experience probably for most of you, and I just invite you to just be patient with me and let it work on you and just go through the experiment of yourself. And we'll just do it for just 5 minutes. For the first couple of minutes, we'll chant together in a normal tone, and then we'll whisper, and then we'll do it silently. And then we'll come back out of it again with a whisper and then a normal tone. So I'll begin. You don't have to do it if you don't want to. Come on, Patty, PPP, let's go. Ready? Okay. Sa, ta, na, ma. Sa, ta, na, ma. Sa, ta, na, ma. Let me hear you a little bit. Ta, na, ma. Sa, ta, na. Give it a chance. Sa, ta, na, ma. Cosmos, summer, winter, spring. Sa, ta, na, ma. Keep up. Let's hear each other. This is an experiment in group consciousness. Ta, na, ma. Sa, ta, na, ma. Sa, ta, na, ma. Sa, ta, na, ma. Yes. Cosmos, summer, winter, spring. See each image mine. Sa, ta, na, ma. Sa, ta, na, ma. Now whisper. Sa, ta, na, ma. Sa, ta, na, ma. Sa, spring, cosmos, summer, winter, spring, summer. Now keep up and do it silently, please. And just see the image in your mind. It's challenging to keep repeating the image in your mind. Strengthen your mind. Be the master of your mind. Cosmos, summer, winter, spring. Where are you in the cycle of your life? When you stay focused, where is your mind going to race? Now start to whisper. Regular voice, sa, da, na, ma, sa, da, na, ma, sa, da, na, ma, sa, da, na, ma, cosmos, summer, winter, spring. Now inhale deep and hold your breath, please. Touch the first finger to your thumb. Let the eyes roll up and focus at the point which is between the brow, and don't breathe. Just be still. Now take a sliver of breath in. Exhale, relax your breath, relax your eyes, relax your hands. Now, what I just wanted to share with you is just a very short meditation. I realize that this isn't really a disciplined yoga environment and it's difficult to concentrate in here. But what I would like to leave you with is that how we feel, how we express ourselves, the quality of our life has everything to do with the chemicals that are inside of our body. Whether we feel love, happiness, a sense of accomplishment, or if we feel defeat, fear, anger, or rage, these are all chemicals that are making us feel this way. Now, these chemicals, they're often a slave to our environment. Whatever is going in our ears, whatever is going into our eyes, what is going into our mouth, this is determining the chemical makeup of our body. So it's our environment that's determining how satisfied we are with our life. The practice of yoga and meditation is simply just a hack. It's a way to cut off the environment. That's why the ancient yogis and the Buddhists, they said they wanted to seek refuge. They would go and they would study inside of a cave because they were cutting off the influences, the negative influences of society. And I know that you know that our society here has a lot of negative influences, especially of the community here. So I would encourage you to study meditation and yoga on your own and see what it can do for you, because for me, it saved my life. So thank you very much. Thank you for your patience.
What is your name?
My name is DJ Red Rocks.
DJ Ray.
Yes.
That's a split personality. I was telling you guys about.
Where are you spinning records at?
I spin, right now, I spin at the Wild Hair on the north side.
When you come to the south side, you spin here.
As soon as you invite me, mine.
All right.
Well, actually, he's going to do some in a few minutes, but first we're going to let Tiffany give some feedback on how she applies similar techniques to her therapy and trauma recovery practice.
Thank you. Like DJ Aurelia mentioned, yoga, it actually means union. And it's a union of your mind, your body, and your soul connection. And so oftentimes when we have disruptions, like overwhelming experiences and like traumatic experiences, there's a disconnect. There's a disconnect in our nervous system. Our nervous system becomes overactive. And so what that looks like oftentimes is anxiety. It looks like hypervigilance. It looks like feeling on edge. It looks like you can't keep still. And so yoga helps to reconnect that mind-body connection. So like I mentioned earlier, things like yoga, things like different sensory techniques, movement, those are called bottom-top approaches to where we use our body to change functioning in our brain. And also, like I said earlier, those regions are the regions that control regulation, those regions that control memory, those regions that control fear. Studies have shown with soldiers, there is one of my favorite books called The Body Keeps Score, and it talks about traumatic experiences and how even though traumatic experiences may pass, those feelings and those experiences often stay trapped in our mind and our body. And in this study, it showed that soldiers who struggle with PTSD, when they practice a few minutes of breath work or meditation before they went to sleep, it reduced their night terrors that they had from being in the war. So that's just one example how things like meditation, how yoga, again, really affects our brain and can help reduce those really overwhelming experiences. And so meditation can be difficult. It's not an easy task, especially, you know, we are a get up and kind of go society. You get up, you need to do this, you need to do that. There are so many other things to do that it's really difficult oftentimes to say, I'm going to be intentional about my day. I'm going to be intentional about how I present. I'm going to take some moments of mindfulness. And what those moments of mindfulness can look like is being very intentional about how you want to present, about how you want to regulate. And so meditation, yoga, movement, however you choose to express yourself and be intentional, you know, can help you reduce those feelings of feeling overwhelmed or feeling hypervigilant or feeling anxious. So, thank you.
Good friends, best friends, and she won the Peely Fresh Award, which is, I think, appropriate since you are responsible for giving us the gift of Parker Lee, all those years, decades of hip hop, and creativity brought to Chicago. My name is Akbar, and yeah, Parker Lee is definitely a big part of my life still. Rest in peace to my brother Parker, who passed away late last year. It seems like, I don't know, it just feels like he's still with me. Like I don't feel like he's gone. And we like to celebrate, you know, his spirit. So yeah, that's what we doing, man. This is hip hop. We keep it moving forward. That's my brother AC. Come to the stage, bro. His beautiful wife Tiffany. Yeah. Thank you for bringing us together, Mark. I've known Mark for a long time too. Like back in the 90s when we was doing hip hop events and open mics. He was always at the shows doing his journalism thing. He was always doing write-ups on the shows, hip-hop shows. And yeah, very witty and very diligent brother. So I appreciate you for inviting me and bringing me here and having me a part of this for the suicide prevention, which is something that we definitely need to heal and correct. Anyway, let's get it going.
Mic check. My name's Ed from Awesome AC Wolf, like the sign says. It's my guy Akbar.
Yeah.
Got DJ Titan in the back. Gonna do a little hip hop rhymes on a positive note. That's it. Yeah, we're the suicide prevention summit. And we'll move with thought, though. What you eat affects your body and affects your mind. Yeah. So, talk about choices right now. Choices to be alive. Choice to eat well. Check it. Yeah. Yeah, you are. It's a cool thought. Yeah, you can buy food. Yeah, think about that. Think about that. That's a cool thought. Yeah, you are. It's a cool thought. Yeah, you can buy food. Yeah, think about that. Think about that. That's a cool thought. I wanna live, don't just survive. Yeah, live your life.
Proceed to enter. Yeah. All right. So what's good, y'all? Let's get this set off real quick. Let's set it off real quick. Yeah. Let's do it. What? What's up? How y'all doing? You? That's my mom right there. That's Flo. Jazz Flo. You heard? Tiffany. Yeah. The cameraman in the back. Hold it down in the spot. Every rock, check it out. Chicago. Yeah. Now when you came in the party and you saw the crowd, should've read the sign. No suckers allowed. This jam is for the real rap. Face to put the stomp in your feet and the clap in your hands. The nod in your hand and the hump in your back. The uncontrollable urge to jump in the track. You know I'm about to come up with something fat. Yeah. Now when the party's packed, but the MC's back. That's back to the wall. Who do you call? The trouble. None other than the hall. The hall. Mine's a dream. I make the team seem small. Allow me to explain the meaning of my name. Break it down and make it sound simple and plain. It means there is nothing greater, but some can't tell. So not only will I say it, but I spell it as well. It goes A to the K. B-A-R. My name is Eyeball, but some say it was all. But I wouldn't make it that I couldn't take it this far. Sucker MCs, you know who? Yeah, I remember when I wanted to roll with y'all and got treated no better than a hole in the wall. All I kept catching was crazy beats, but I always knew when they come out like baby teeth. But I said I fell off, stepped in it all. This and that, pull the trigger back, let the show off. Wham, one to your kidney, Sydney. You can throw blows and still never hit me. All you can get me is a glass of Morello set with no sweat. You post no breath, so check. Step off, stay off, it's a layoff. If you're walking, take the rest of the day off. Yeah, cause when you saw the crowd, you should've read the sign. No suckers allowed. This jam is for the real rappers. Fake to put the stomp in your feet and the clap in your hands. The nod in your head, the hump in your back. The uncontrollable urge to jump in the trap. You know I'm about to come up with something fat. Break the mold, Parker Lee told me that. Yeah. You know, Scott, your father always told me, man, keep your head high and go for the gusto, you heard? We never give up, man. Don't quit, keep it on hip-hop to hip-hop say, and you don't stop. I say life's a gift, I say life's a gift. Let me hear you say life's a gift. I say life's a gift. I say life's a gift. I bet you never heard of it on the mic like this, yeah. Like this, or like this, y'all. Or like this, y'all. Give me the next track. Yeah. I think a couple minutes, then I catch my Timbs. Since I'm up, strictly roots and stems. But make some fresh fruit, squeeze the juice from them. I don't drink like that, rituals is fun. I don't care if it's low fat or even skin. And this is the way we stay big time trim, so you don't never how feet down, get ready to gym. I don't eat spam or green eggs and ham. I like the whole wheat toast with the strawberry jam. That's the type of man that I am. I eat good food that rolls up from the lake. The rice, the beans, the wheat, the corn, and the yam. I don't need approval from Uncle Sam. Cause what God made, no man can brand. But there's still a few things that you don't understand. I don't drink soda, no Coca-Cola. When my feeling fell out, I broke them over. I sound like solar, chill like the polar. Can't take the old school raps like Gola. Like check the insight of this white cola. Still need to see if I can live my life over. I'm on. The whole week to the Timothy's. Come and see the people I feed. Give me the brown rice and the ground spice. The brown sugar and they stink, but that sounds nice. Bring me spring water and the water every night. The blood out, bring my keep me complex and bright. And when you feel it, like you can give birth to you. I use some Almera, I use the golden seal. It's still rock, and the south is out going for real. Strictly ice, so that's fine. Oh, wait a minute.
Oh, yeah.
What you doing? Yo,
That was a food for thought right there.
They're feeling me, y'all.
Hey, yo, that was a food for thought right there for real.
That's how I give it up, baby.
No
I've
doubt.
been vegetarian for like 13 years now. Yeah. out, selector. When I tell you to get me drunk, y'all get me drunk, okay? Yeah. Y'all good? Okay. Watch out, watch me now, watch me, rude boy. Yeah. Let it out, watch me, rude boy. Yeah. I still remember when I first came out as a little young gun, so testing my name out, trying to get my name out, entertain crowd. I never want to entertain, y'all. My own name out, yeah. I still remember when I first came out as a little young gun, so testing my name out, trying to get my name out, so I can bring crowd. I never wanted to entertain y'all, hit the car, my brain on my own name out, till I shut down the game and got rained down. I have a whole team running, rude boy, coming out of the spring running. Kingdom to run, bottom line, I have a cool bring one. Couldn't be said any clearer. I'm all about my bread like Panera. I need it in my hands in general. I work for commission, so my only competition is the man in the mirror. Looks like I outdid myself. I ain't even gonna kid myself. I get the bag, bring it back home and split my wolf. Tell me in the South, they can never get my belt. No! I'm a beast on them. I used to rock leaves with the crease on them. I'm always outside, but I keep going in. Cause your boy cold even when the heat's on 10. Let's go! Let's go, put your hands in the air, put your hands in the air. Yeah. It's left on me, I guess it wasn't expected me, and then I hit him with the line. Yeah, you know what? Yeah, it's funny how this left on me, I guess it wasn't expected me, until I hit him like, yeah, oh yeah. DJ Tight hold me down on the ones and twos.
No doubt.
He said he don't know what's next.
Yo, check it out real quick. I want to make sure.
What's up?
Something's been on my head for a minute, even before today. But it applies to today. That kind words, nice words, they're not reserved for funerals and wakes. They're not reserved for funeral and wakes.
Okay, cool.
So we say that to somebody who we care about now, that can physically hear us. If anything, that may be the difference between them taking their own life and staying here, because they know how you really feel about it. So those kind of words we hear, we talk about our past loved ones, we talk about it at funerals and all that, that's good. It's warranted, because we remind that person, we celebrate that person. But we should try to say those words to them while they're still physically with us. It can make the biggest difference in the world. That's what I've been thinking about, really, for the past 2 weeks, especially this past week. The words we can say to each other while we're still here, it can really change someone's trajectory.
No doubt.
That's it. I just want to say that.
That's facts. I think my time is a little cut shorter than I anticipated, so I'm gonna get it in real quick before we get out of here. Skip that joint and go to, and let me say something. I'm gonna have you go to Price of Freedom before we do that. Check me out. It's ballet the way I stay on my toes. I pop spiritual no-dos and never let my third eye close. So let the master teacher speak to the class. Holding the nine, looking through the blind like El Hatch, Malik Shabazz. I'm like Dr. King with a speech, reaching the mass. Or Huey Newton, they start shooting, I'm reaching the stash. I can see into the future, or reaching the past. Take 2 samples of water and pour them each in the glass. Cause if they don't know the difference between the dirty and the clean, the lies and the truth, who's gonna teach them the path? The road to success and the address to happiness can't be found with a GPS. So at the end of the day, like 11:59 p.m., you gotta go inside of your mind to find freedom. You gotta go inside of your mind to find freedom. Say it. You gotta go inside of your mind to find freedom. Okay. Speaking of that, let's get it. Yeah. Now, you know, we've been here, before they said we've been here, before we were so-called slaves, we were here to represent, you know, setting up shop. But this story is also real, so let me tell it. Hey yo, in 1555 we arrived as slave hands in the strange land where the Indians once thrived. And still we strive to stay alive. And we fought for the freedom and died, but we survived. Transcontinental trips on slave ships, chains and whips. They changed the script, our names were stripped, families ripped, women raped, men were killed, children were forced to work to hot field. Jim Crow laws, Dred Scott decision, emancipation population set us free without a plot to visit. What's it gonna take for us to finally break free? you when I could be free. God be lighting in the sight so we can see. Freedom comes before justice and equality, but if we still behave with that old slave mentality, then in reality, none of us are true. Free, put your hands up, put your fists up for freedom. Your freedom, okay. I got the heart and that tongue, big with the line album. You wanna know the price of freedom, go and buy an album. This is hip hop, let's take it to the top so we can rise like steam when the kettle gets hot. You can hear it scream, cause in the ghetto it's hot. We push tree, pedal rock and let that metal pop. This will make that cream and I bet it won't stop. Hustling on the block, switching spots, looking out for cops, it's all scheme. We change dreams and take wrong shots. Where I come from, that's all we got. With my man Tiger, hit the beat, I call rock the spot. Never look back, that God told rock, so we got. Free, what's it gonna take? I was the fucking free. I bring the table, come with everything, free. My people have to fight, they wait to get free. So they can dance with the emotions of long I could be free. But God made light and gave us sight so we can see. Freedom comes before justice and equality, but if we still behave with that old slave mentality, then in reality, none of us are really free.
Nice.
Okay, I don't know. I think I'm gonna end it on. Let me end it on another note. Let me end it on another note. One last song. Okay, hold up. I got a dope flow like an IV. This that real dope, like the kind you don't provide free. I put on a dope show. Come inside and see. You ain't never had pure dope until you tried me. I got a dope beat with a dope flow. I give you bars like that little dish where the soap go. I got a dope flow. My flow is so dope though. My raps once got confiscated by the popo. Okay, let's go. Give me whatever you want to give me. I'll get it. I'ma rock it out. Good choice, good choice. Yeah. My dad was up this, man. They call it toasted, girl. He can play the JBs, the last poets, that's what got me into hip hop. I didn't even know what was going on. I've been groomed for this, you heard? I've been groomed for this right here. Let's go. Hey yo. Baby blue, 4-door, 74, Cadillac, sedan, DeVille with the green grill. Damn, this black man is ill. Son, chill. I got skill to make time stays live on. Boogie down, Bronx, boogie down, boogie. Caught the 2 train uptown. Look at where it took me. All the way to 219 in White Plains. Picture my name on the train. I used to write Spain. PS21 class of 80. I'm crazy old school like my pops blasting JBs. I make the mix ever since like 85. There will come a day when I play on stage live. And pops do it when he drop fluid. Then I was born to do it and they couldn't put a stop to it. So when I hip hop is hot, then vibe to it. So when I'm in the spot, the fans will flock to it. You can throw me in your way, prove the block to it. 20 years later, you can still rock to it. Niggas wanna see me stop, but I will not do it. I'll never stop. I'll never stop, you heard? Life is a gift. Life is a gift, right? Life is a gift. You only get one, so what you do with it? You heard? Yo, Taki, hold me down, baby. Matter of fact, bring it to the top for me. Bring it to the top. Mic check. Yeah. I'm gonna give you a chapter. Let me give you one more chapter. Hey yo, junior high, 136. You should have seen me back then, y'all. Like skate tall, spending all my money on pinball. Playing rookie and sneakers, or taking 2 trains back to the boogie. I can't forget when I was young, I was 2. I used to rock that extra sock under the trim of my shoe. My big bro Rocky was all white Zulu. Peace, I keep a piece of your what chapter you. I heard the kids across town tried to copy your crew. It's all monster, got sings by the ball busters. That was back in 82, but my memory fails me. I can still recall when we all got tops and played scalesies. Bad shoes, blowing that shit off the roof. I got a cap cover up the shit too. Doing corner store tours, busting food stand dollars. Mom bound got the real fur around the collar, racking back the candy bars. Who's jacket? This fella back to the man at the newsstand for $5 a packet. Mr. Marshall ain't another jacket. If only I could finesse him back, it was a better time. I could have led a life of crime, but instead I chose to use my hands to write a rhyme. What's up with being MC? Was a conscious choice. That's when I soon found out I had a monstrous voice. It was like at the school, taking a dip in the pool. I was out at the block party, gripping the tool. When he started MCs, challenged me to a duel. It was 3 against
our crowd, I'm sure a lot of our co-panelists have disappeared, but we're going to keep this going. Let's start off, Tam, on what we talked about. We're discussing the components of suicidal feelings, and then go into how you deal with someone when they tell you that they want to die of suicide.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Hi guys, thank you so much. I'm having a little bit of a hard time hearing you.
What about now? Is this okay?
Oh my God, that's perfect. Thank you.
Okay. And we've been
awesome. Thank you so much.
I've been plugging your book in and out, but let you go ahead and I'll plug it again.
Oh, that's so sweet. Thank you so much. Just tell me where you want me to start, and I'll go ahead and start.
Well, let's start with what you had talked about, suicidal thoughts. What the components of that, what are the signs that somebody is, even if they don't say, I just want to end it all, or I wish I were dead. What are the signs of that you're
Yes. Yes, absolutely. Let me just start by saying that suicidal thoughts are really subtle. They're sneaky. And sometimes they're automatic, and sometimes they're just very direct. So when I'm working with clients, I always tell them, be aware of the individual's thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. So you want to be aware of those three things. You know, when a family member, a loved one, an individual struggles with suicidal thoughts, they usually struggle on the inside all alone. So it's really difficult for those of us on the outside to determine when we need to step in. But there are a few ways that you can figure that out. There most definitely are ways that you can see that a person is not doing well. And I think that starts with recognizing their patterns. Is this a person that, you know, with the drug calls, are they isolating? What kind of a person is this? Is this normal for them, typical for them? Another way to identify suicidal thoughts would be to look at their appetite, their eating habits. Are they sleeping, not sleeping? Are they irritable? Are they depressed? Are they anxious? And most importantly, are they kind of planning? You know, are they planning? Do they have a whole bottle of pills that they don't need in the medicine cabinet? Do they have a lot of knives? Or do they have a hidden gun with bullets in their house somewhere, right? So you want to look at the possibility of them planning, and once you realize that, okay, they have all the means that they need, then you want to figure out, how do I step in here and help the person? I will pause there.
One question before I have you talk about how to address or answer someone who talks about giving it all. I wanted to repeat a question that we repeated to some of our panelists from someone from the audience who shared with me that they had attempted suicide several times and they actually had the scars of bleeding. How do you handle being too negative on yourself as opposed to other people being negative with you? What are the tools or what are the approaches to that?
My goodness, I heard the tail end of that. You said, I'm sorry, could you repeat that, Mark?
Okay, sorry about that.
That's okay. That's okay.
I was just asking, how do you handle being too hard on yourself and causing your own self-trauma as opposed to somebody else telling you you're ugly or you should have never been born, I wish you were dead. You know, I should have crossed my legs when you were coming out the birth canal. You know, what have you. How do you deal with that? Because I was thinking of Les Carter. Do you know Les Carter? He's another YouTube therapist, and he deals a lot with religious settings. And he often says that when somebody does something like that, I just tell them, well, thank you for letting me know that I'm not providing and I'm not you.
Wow. And I'm going to address that. I think there's a lot of
Okay. Maybe I should just sit there. Okay. So one more time. How do you deal with, or how do you address being too hard on yourself? By deciding that you're too ugly, you should have never been born, you'll never be enough for anyone. you're just not, you just can't make the grade like anybody else. You're just not worthy.
Who tells you that?
I see. So this would be the individual who's contemplating suicide, is that correct?
It could be, yeah.
Okay, okay. Honestly, I think you have to find, I mean, if I tackle this question from an existential perspective, you really have to focus on your own life. Who am I? What am I here to do? What is my own personal purpose? And I think once you do that, and the negative thoughts of why was I ever born? Why do I have this kind of life? Those kind of questions become smaller as you develop more, as you start to, stop looking at everybody else's life and kind of focus on your own purpose, your own life. Then I think you can kind of come away from those thoughts. I think also too, segregating yourself from negative people, a negative environment, negative, comments from people that you think are close to you or friends, family, that kind of thing. I think once you minimize that impact on your life, you walk away, then it won't be so difficult to see your own purpose. I think some of those negative thoughts will dissipate that way.
So going no contact, no net narcissist supply.
Did you say no narcissist supply? Is that correct?
Correct.
Yes.
Or no abusive supply.
Yes.
You take away the abuser's power by walking away.
I missed that first part.
I said you take away the abuser's power by denying them the pleasure of your presence. Or someone to attack or bait.
Oh my goodness, this is so hard. I'm so sorry. I really cannot.
Where does the abusing power come from? It has to come from within you.
They're trying to work on it now.
There you go. Can you hear us now?
Oh my God, that's perfect.
Okay, so I was saying, so basically you're recommending no contact, no narcissist supply, or no abuser supply.
Oh, that's absolutely. I think when you're attached to people who are unhealthy, they're callous, they're cold,